guys, so it's been a month. Um, I don't even know the last time I really vlogged. I think I threw up a very quick or smashed together vlog for the end of March. It is now May 2nd to be exact. Oh, there goes the phone. Small adjustment. Um, so like I was saying, I think I put together a very quick end of March vlog. So I don't think I've vlogged in April. I have some stuff recorded. It'll probably come out after this video, just because of timing. But I have been making really good progress on editing. I am now in the middle of both editing the second round of edits for book 2, which is what I call the small revisions. Like the big revisions, the big rewrites have been done, and now I'm doing more sentence level revision. And because timing is what it is, and I already feel like I'm running behind for my deadline of putting this out by the fall, maybe slightly we'll have to move. I have started doing proofreading finals on book 1 at the same time, so that is breaking my brain. But I will get into that later. I want to sit down and have a whole conversation about how this is going and how I'm tackling this. But today I am working from home because we're doing construction on my office building. We've had no bathrooms all week, which is fine. I don't mind walking to the next building over. It's not that much of a big deal, and I like the steps. But I didn't have anything on the calendar on Friday, and I decided, well, I'm just going to take it as a work from home. Half the office, I think, is working from home regardless. The noise is what finally started to get me, because the first few days it was like, well, we've got no water and we've got no facilities, so we just walk on over. But yesterday they started actually drilling and breaking ground, and I don't know what they're actually doing. I'm not sure if it's like a renovation. They've given us very few details, or at least the details have not trickled down to anybody who works in the building. So fun times. But it involves some sort of both jackhammering and soldering, because the smell of whatever they were soldering was starting to just infuse the entire building. And people yesterday were like, what is on fire? And apparently the guys who are doing the work are so used to it and nose blind to it that they're like, of what smell dost thou speak? And so I was like, I can't do this. The noise and the smell are definitely going to trigger another migraine, and that is the last thing I need right now. I've finally, knock on wood, come out of the really big attack that I had that got me through both most of February and half of March into April. So I do not need that again. It may have been triggered, I think, by maybe either something I was doing in my posture while maybe writing, or a combination of that plus poor sleeping posture and working out. I think it all just blew up. I was doing a lot of overhead presses during that last workout that I was doing in February into March, because I was since I took so much time off, I was still doing the same workout. I usually pick one strength training series of sets, and then we'll do that for the entire month to see my progress and my strength building and increase weights and all that. But I also have really tight traps, and I think doing a lot of this got this to clench up, and then whatever was happening here, it all contributed. And so between my usual migraine triggers and whatever my muscles and cervical spine were doing, that became a whole maelstrom of disastrous pain. So that's, I think in the last vlog I mentioned that I went to the hospital, or the urgent care facility attached to the hospital for that. Had to take steroids for a week. They did help. I felt lovely on them. I know, it's so funny. I was scared to take them because I know that steroids do have some pretty intense effects, but I figured at that point I was suffering from extreme pain that had gotten debilitating and to the point where I couldn't really do much or drive or like live my life comfortably. And taking so much Advil was definitely hurting my stomach. I've been trying not to take Advil that often because I definitely have taken too much of it over the years and I am afraid of getting an ulcer. But I, decided like, you know what, the doctor obviously prescribed this for a reason, weighing out the pros and cons. Right now, I am in a deep con. And so I took the steroids and it felt amazing. I was like completely pain free for a week. It was lovely. It's so funny because if you suffer from any kind of chronic pain, like you know what it feels like on the day that you like get up and there's no pain and it feels just different. It feels like, oh, this is what life could be like if I didn't have whatever the thing you might have is. And my thing is migraine and thyroid. So I just felt really good for like a solid week. And then the week after, I did a stupid thing. And instead of giving myself more time to heal, I was like, well, maybe if I do some light weights and do like a light bar exercise. But I definitely felt the flare coming back. So I am now laying off any weightlifting until mid-May to give myself, at this point, a solid like 4 to 5 weeks of time away from it. So basically, I'm in recovery. I've been doing Pilates, no weights, and being mindful of any moves that end up using this too much because I have like felt like a little bit of a rebound if I do any like moves that involve that too much. I've also switched out my bag in case that's also contributing to like that traps pain. So all this to say, I am behind on my schedule because I had to spend a significant amount of time just laying around. Like that was it. But I have read a lot of books. So I do consider that a form of like work towards writing because when I'm reading a book, it's like, it's triggering ideas and stimulating, my creativity and also just like engaging with the written word and the craft of writing and like how is somebody doing this to evoke feeling. We've been meeting with my writing group too, so that's been nice. So I haven't felt like I haven't been doing anything writing related during those times, but when I look at my tracker, like there are just like significant chunks. I usually I mark every time that I write, and on days when I don't write, I mark them off in red and I explain why. And so my tracker has like these chunks. I think it was like definitely like I think if I count them, I think I lost about essentially a month over, like staggered across the last 2.5 months. It was probably about 30 days where I didn't get to write anything at all because the pain was too much. But I'll go into my progress a little bit later today. I have to finally do the big BJ's haul, so I will be going to my mom's house to drop off some stuff. And while I am there, since she lives, like in the general area, I will finally be going in. So I am taking like my 2-hour commute time that I would normally spend is now going to be my take care of business and get food because I have nothing to eat in this house. I have been making little waffles because that's what you see here. I just had little waffles because I have run out of everything else. So I was like, what can I eat for breakfast? Well, I guess we'll just be making little waffles with the protein peanut butter that I have. So that's what I've been doing. But I definitely need to fill up on like the big essentials, like things like chicken and some veggies, and I think I'm covered on fruits, so I should be good with that. But just stuff to keep me fueled throughout the week. Meal prep has been working well, and I want to keep that up. I also need to, at some point, I need to buy some soup containers because I like the soups for lunch. I see myself continuing that. I was probably going to start doing salads for the summer, but I feel like soups are just so much easier to like just make a big batch and take it with me. So meal prep will continue, and I need to invest in upgrading my soup containers and stop using like the throwaway plastic ones that I've saved from like takeout meals and stuff. So I will check in with you guys when I do that. grocery haul and just kind of fill you guys in. I think I'll just pop those into this video, even though this will come out kind of like out of order chronologically from when I do the budget and all that. I'll see you guys in a few hours. Beans. Hello, Mimi.
Abrir un poquito más si quiere.
Hi, Mimi.
Mimi.
Hello. I'm home. I'm gonna throw everything very quickly into the fridge because I have to get to work. That took longer than I expected. My mother wanted me to download a chair workout app for seniors, and so then I had to teach her how to do chair workouts. So we got chicken. Hooray! I will figure out the configuration. I'll sort it later. We'll make it work when we make it work. Also got ground turkey, which is kind of squishy, but this is what I use to make my chili. Okay, we're gonna just kind of pile up in here. We'll figure out how to sort things later. There's no time for that. Salmon. So I've got plenty of proteins for several weeks. Oh boy. Okay. Do not look behind the curtain. Picked up some glasses for the boy because his are falling apart. And I picked up some skincare for my mom because it's her birthday in a couple of weeks and she has been asking for skincare. So she used to like rock. I think this will be a nice little present. It'll last a while. And I picked up a, Figgy, what are you doing? Stop that. I picked up a USB-C USB because I actually don't have a USB-C one. And I thought it would be nice and convenient. It says it works for tablets, iPhones, and computers. So, useful. And peppers. For snackies. Actually, let's figure that out. I also picked up more of the Buffalo Ranch, which I haven't been able to find anywhere but at Beaches. I don't think it's exclusive. I just haven't found it anywhere else around here. And because we're just loading up on emergency supplies for hurricane season and other assorted situations, some more tuna. That one's very high in protein. I don't normally get the albacore, but it was a nice deal. They had like a $4 off coupon, so I took advantage. Bread. I haven't had this one in a while, but I saw a very nice, like, I think it was like a chicken and egg salad sandwich that looked good, and they used brioche. This is sort of like a brioche, so I'll use this one. I think a little bit less sweet than brioche, which I prefer. And green leaf. And lastly, I decided to buy some pre-made barbecue chicken wings. I will sort these later and freeze them so that I can have like little lunches throughout the month, essentially. So I'm gonna very quickly put this stuff away and then get my desk ready to start work. In the meantime, I'm heating up some leftover sweet and sour chicken and pork fried rice from last night because we did have it became an inadvertent picnic. We went to have Chinese food because I was really craving like Chinese restaurant Chinese, not like Panda Express or anything that I have like access to more readily. And so we had leftovers. We were going to a place that I used to go to like many years ago when I was in college because it was close to the university, and it stopped serving like dine-in. They used to have a dine-in option, but like so many restaurants after the pandemic, they went to takeout only. I guess they never went back to dine-in. So I was like, well, this is nostalgic, but I won't get the full nostalgia. But we did find a park nearby, went there, had it as a picnic, which was even nicer. So that was a sweet little mini date that we had. I'm gonna very quickly make the bed, set up my desk so I can start working, have lunch, do chat, get some tasks done, and then I will catch up with you guys and have a sit down where I finally like go over my current writing status, projects, updates, etc., all the things. So, see you back in a bit. The time has come for snacks, decaf coffee, because I am trying to have self-control, and at least one round of editing. I haven't gotten that much done today. I actually haven't had a lot of energy because I've had a weird week of a little bit of insomnia and also getting up way too early, which has triggered the cats thinking that I'm supposed to wake up at that hour, and now they are alarm clocks waking me up at like 5 a.m. So I have been lacking in sleep, and I think it finally caught up to me after all the excitement of the last week when I was at a conference and a lot of things were busy, and like last week was just like a weird time, throw off my schedule, my sleep patterns, etc. And this week my sleep patterns have still been screwy, so I think it just caught up with me. I had to take a nap, so I did my bit, and then I was like, oh, I'm exhausted, I need to lay down for a bit. And now I am trying to get back, get productive, get some stuff done while I just like check on things in the background and catch up on whatever I need to do. And so I'm gonna do this for a bit. It's currently 4 o'clock. Some stuff is just not gonna happen today, so I'm just gonna try to do the best I can, at least do the daily goals I have set for myself as far as revising book 2, and then I will catch up with you guys on what I have been doing lately. It's a lot of this. Okay, so here we are. I am settling in to have the chat. I wrapped up my day at work, did some other stuff, sent some emails, did some like checking in with the girls from my office. Apparently, our building now also is not going to have air conditioning on Monday, so I will be working from home again on Monday. I'm not even gonna bother. I feel really bad for our public services folks. It's not entirely without air conditioning, they say. It is apparently only the 3rd floor of our building, but usually even when they turn off one floor, like it gets really warm everywhere else. And my office is always hot. It is like facing, it's got windows on 2 sides and it's facing east. So it really heats up, especially in the mornings, and I don't want to do that. So I will be working from home, and then we have like a all team professional development thing on Tuesday, but that will be luckily in a different building. So I will be not in the potentially hot building without water, without a bathroom for a few more days. And that is fine with me. So where we are, I started editing book 2. Originally, I did the first read through in January, so now it is May. This is actually pretty on par with like my usual pace for editing. I am not the fastest editor. That is always my challenge. My process has improved, I will say, over the years. I have now been doing writing as with the intent to publish as a side thing for a long time. Like 13 years, I think, if my math is correct. It was 2025, I believe, I did my first NaNoWriMo, and at that point is when I was like, this is a book I'm writing to publish. It was no longer just me writing to engage with writing, to like throw ideas out there. It was like, I'm starting this, I'm ending this, I want to publish this. And that was a book that then I rewrote it a couple times, workshopped it, went through, wrote several other books in between, and then eventually queried it and sadly shelved it for now. Although I do have plans eventually. After this series is finished, my goal is to go back and rewrite some of those other books because they would fall very well into romantasy or like a more urban paranormal fantasy type world, which I think works so much better for indie than it has in trad. And I do sometimes feel that that is what really hit me in trad, is that at the time that I was querying, that was not a genre that trad was interested in. And so I missed the wave, and then I started working on this one, and I didn't want to switch gears because I got so into this series and had so many ideas for just like growing it, especially after I decided to just go indie with the series, because I realized that I would just have way more control to put out the books as I wanted to put them out, as opposed to like hoping that somebody would pick it up as a series instead of a standalone and all that mess. So that's a longer story. I've talked about it before, about how I decided to go indie after trying to query trad for 2 rounds with 2 books over a number of years. But so my overall, like writing career processes have improved, and I do think I have a much more streamlined strategy when it comes to like reading the books, editing the books, revising the books, getting betas, doing more readings, doing more revisings, etc. I'm trying to keep it concise, and that means that I also have to stop nitpicking at the little things. There will always be more time for the book to be better. I mean, not necessarily time, but like there are always more ways in which the book can be better. There are always more ways in which I can edit. But at some point, I have to stop fiddling with the little things, with the individual words, and, is next to better than beside or whatever, like those small little bits, and just accept that the word is the word and I need to move on. So if it's not a big edit for content, if I'm just proofing, if the words are fine, if they make sense, if the sentence structure is solid, if the syntax is solid, if the grammar, blah, 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 is great, then we move on, we accept it, and we move on. Because otherwise, I will be just reworking these pieces for forever. And that is one of the things I've struggled with. It isn't as long. So I worked on book 1. I started book 1, which is called Before You Called Me Baby. I need to start like actually talking about what these things are called as I do these updates, because that is the goal with finally putting it out. So Before You Called Me Baby, I started in 2019. I wrote it. I had started writing a different book for NaNoWriMo. Rest in peace, because NaNoWriMo is no more. So I started a different book for NaNoWriMo, which was a rewrite of another book I had already written. And about midway through, I was like, nope, this idea is just not letting go, and I need to write this book. So I completely switched gears. This was contemporary romance. At that point, I had never written contemporary romance. I had only ever written fantasy romance, and like what I call like alternate historical fantasy romance as a YA writer, which was my initial goal, was to write adult and YA. I feel like I've drifted away from YA. I don't feel like I read as much YA anymore, and my writing definitely comes more easily with adult style writing. So those I will also age up over time, because I have several manuscripts that I love the stories. I just think now my style has changed, and I definitely need to age them up, so they just need to be rewritten. But a tangent. This book was just like really striking me. So I started it in 2019, finished it, had to rewrite it, realized that it didn't make, or at least it did make sense, but it didn't make good sense without 2 POVs. So I had to go back and integrate the male main character's POV into that one. So that was a fairly substantial edit. And then again, read through it, run it through my first round of major revisions, which are like the big revisions for content, like making sure that the story flows, that the plot makes sense. And then I did, I like to do a first round of like basic revisions after that, where, I'm just like checking to make sure everything looks good, at least, surface level, before passing it on to betas. So that was a process. Also, the pandemic hit in the middle of that, and I didn't write or look at that book for a solid like 3.5 to 4 months, because I just couldn't. I then came back to it, was writing again, was working, was doing all the things, got, went through betas, and then I started querying it. And that was a very long time coming. So it feels to me like this book has been longer in production than I like to admit, but also it was longer in production because of so many things that happened, both in the world and in my life. I also had a couple of, pets pass away. I had eventually issues with my parents. My grandmother passed away. A lot of stuff happened in my life, and I have to give myself grace that unfortunately my, goals to publish were just like set back because of life getting in the way. And then the realization that after querying for a year and a half, I just wasn't like, I was like, this is never going to happen in trad. And I was starting already to have my doubts about trad. I had already taken Publish and Thrive. I had gotten really enthused by the idea of self-publishing. It is both daunting but exciting because self-publishing offers me so much more control over the product and, the earnings eventually and all that. Although right now my big worry is that I might put this out and it might not really sell much because everybody's struggling to make sales right now. It's the reports coming back from most indie authors and even some of the trad authors on how sales are doing across the board, whether in KU or wide, have been grim. So, luckily I have a job, knock on wood. I have a job and I don't need this to feed myself, but, and I have no aspiration to be a full-time writer because I do in fact need health insurance and I don't want to have to pay for it out of pocket. So as long as I can have a job that's flexible and allows me the mental space for creative work, I'm good. But indie just, it's a difficult choice to make. I've had to make some hard choices about money, which have also led to like some of the delays in this process, like setting up the LLC and things like that, because I've had my worries about whether or not I can actually put this out with my intended date. I don't have pre-orders, which is fine. Like I don't need to push back pre-orders or anything. And I don't have contracts with anyone, so that's fine too. But I am DIYing this for the most part. Not to like, maybe that's cocky of me. I don't know, not to toot my own horn, but I do have a lot of like specific skills that I think just naturally feed into this. So I think for the most part, I'm good. And that's not to say that in the future, I won't be contracting, like cover designers and stuff. But I feel like for this round, I need to put as much of my effort into getting the product done on my own and sort of like funneling money into future books as they grow and into marketing, and trying to keep my costs as low as possible in production and using the skills and strategies that I already know how to do. I know how to do marketing. I know how to do graphic design. I can format a book. I used to have to format like little magazines and InDesign. So like I have a skill set that I don't, like think everybody has. So I hope that this can serve me well as I go through with this process. But editing wise, I am now working on 2 books simultaneously because I have decided to do the proofread of book 1 on my own. And again, for better or worse, but given where my savings are at and what the potential to maybe not earn my money back is right now, I'm going to take my own skills and apply them. I'm reading out loud. I believe I'm going to try to use like natural readers or Speechify to go through it again. I will do another read through, and then I will use Pro Writing Aid, and I will use, like just the spell checker and all that. And will there be a typo? Maybe. Because even in traditionally published books, you find the occasional typo. But I hope I'll be fine, and that, I have a background in writing, and I have a background in teaching writing, and I have a background in being an editor for academic publications. So I hope all these skills serve me well and that this isn't a disaster, but I'm going to be as optimistic as possible and do what I can. And then in the future, if it does earn enough, then, I'll pay for a read and, any future edits and put it out again. It's not like other authors haven't done that before, but it is a choice that I wrestled with. And so now I am doing the read through on my own. I had originally planned on sending it out to an editor to do a final proofread, and like I said, I found several that I like and I saved them for the future, but the cost was just a little too onerous for me at this time. And if I was just going to pay like some random person who was charging like $150, which they might be great, but they might just be very young and have like, just maybe they're just starting out in this area and so that's why they're charging so little, or maybe they just have like no real skill and they can only do the basics. And I don't know, I don't want to judge. I think it's fine, like I'm sure that they might have been great, but I didn't want to take the risk of going for a lower cost proofreader that maybe didn't have the level of skill I needed or the knowledge of the genre that I needed or whatever. So here we are. We're doing the thing. I have just started rereading book one, and so I'm going to be simultaneously because I have found that if I use my iPad and GoodNotes to read through, which I saw another writer doing, not on GoodNotes. Who was it? I can't remember now. But if I do it digitally, I am less crazy. I am less likely to spend hours and hours and hours just obsessing over the text, and it feels more like I'm reading on the iPad, so it feels more like a finished product. So I just kind of go through and I highlight and I write it up. Book one has gone through a lot of edits, so so far I'm not finding a lot of mistakes, but I know that they will be there as I dig deeper. I am revising a little bit more in chapter one because chapter one is always like the most important thing to have like in a solid state. Plus, for chapter one, I had rewritten it again, at least the first few scenes, based on feedback from a writing group that I was in when I was originally trying to query this, and feedback from some of the agents and stuff. And I have to admit that I kind of liked it better before, but that's just me. But I'm gonna go with it as it is. I'm like, maybe this is better. I do see it being better. I think part of the challenge is that I have now written 3 books in this series, and my writing and my comfort with these characters has obviously improved over time because they are standalones, but the characters, they do that thing that you do in romance where one leads into the next. And I feel that my world building within this world, even though it is our world, but like my setting the scenes and stuff, like I've become so comfortable with these settings and these characters that book one now feels like a different me when I read it. And so I'm like, I just want to keep fixing it, and I have to stop that. I have to stop it. So I have to accept that I did do a major it wasn't a major rewrite. It's still done the same way, but like it starts slightly differently. Like it starts a little bit faster than it did originally, which is probably a good thing. It's probably just me nitpicking, but sometimes I'm like, I kind of liked how it opened before. But we cannot go in that direction. We must just go forward. So right now, I literally just started that. I've only finished like 1 hour of actual rewrites, and that was 1 chapter. I'm basically reading it, and then my goal is to spend every Wednesday, rather than revising book 2, just applying the proofs to book 1. That's the plan, at least. And then if I can squeeze in a little bit more here and there, I will do that. And so I'm reading at night, doing book 1 in the mornings. Usually I take like a break at work, so I bring my laptop, and while I'm on my break, I will do 1 sprint. And if I have time, in the afternoon when I come home, I will do another sprint. Usually I squeeze it in between like a workout and dinner. And because the stage is not like as intensive, it goes a little bit faster. So for book 2, I have been working since January. As I said, I started the read through. That read through took 20 hours to complete. And the original draft was at 72,198 words. It is now about 4,000 words longer, last I checked. So it took me, like I started on January 6th and I ended on January 25th. So that was 20 hours. Obviously, it was not 20 hours straight because I just do not have that kind of energy. My brain would be fried and I would be incapacitated for a week if I was trying to do something like that. And then in February, as I mentioned, February, March, and April, I had significant chunks of time where I was not able to work because I ended up in that massive migraine flare. So I completed 18 hours and 28 minutes of editing. That's when I started applying actual revisions. And the first round are the big revisions, which, like I said, are the big content ones. It's moving stuff around, it's cutting out scenes, it's like telling myself, like, no, you need to add more here, you need to like improve the details there. This character needs to be developed further, amp up emotions, whatever. That's usually what I do in round 1 of editing. So I did 18 hours and 28 minutes in February, 16 hours and 1 minute in March, and 19 hours and 15 minutes in April. And that is when I finished that first round of revisions. I finished that round on April 27th and started right into the second level revisions, which are the smaller ones, which is just, like, this sentence doesn't sound right, or break this one up, or maybe, this one needs to be just like cut down a little bit, or whatever, like the small little details, the sentence level structure, grammar, etc. That's what I'm doing now. Started that on the 28th. It is now the 2nd, and so I didn't actually apply the timer. Let's put that in here. Pop it in. There we go. It's not adding up because I didn't actually apply the field. Okay, so I have now completed an hour and 41 minutes worth of edit. So I did some editing yesterday when I came home. I was really tired. I had not edited all day because at work, like I said, they were doing construction, there was noise, the jackhammering, the weird smell, and there were a lot of people around and I was very distracted. Like, we were all just like, none of us had any energy or interest or will to do anything. We're just kind of chit-chatting with all the noise going on around us. But I did come home and I told myself, if you just drink a cup of decaf, which is what I've been doing, because sometimes just like having the coffee like puts me in that mindset. It's like a ritualistic aspect of my writing habit. I was like, have a coffee, have a small snack, and just write a little bit before you go out to dinner. So I did for 32 minutes and managed to work a bit on finishing chapter 1. So that's done. I'm also marking it. I did this for the last book as I was doing the final set of revisions. I'm using these little like vase fillers that my mom was going to throw away. I took them. So I bought this little box. I shouldn't have bought the box, but now I found a purpose for the box. So this is edits on book 2. Edits on book 1 I put into a whiskey glass, which makes sense because a lot of my book is set in a bar. And I was like, this is emblematic. We'll use the whiskey glass and do that. So that's where I am right now. Book 2 currently has, like I said, somewhere around 74,000-ish words is the last I saw. And book 1, this round of edits started with 86,884 words. It was also a book that started around 70,000 words and grew as, I developed it, I edited it and all that. So my plan is hopefully to try to finish at least the edits on book 1, which is obviously the most important one because that's the one that I would like to come out sometime in either late October, early November, fingers crossed. And I still have to do covers and, formatting and all the other mess. But that one, I hope to finish by June. I will be taking about 3 weeks off for my birthday. I normally take 1 week off, but because things have been kind of hectic this year, I was like, you know what? I have the hours. Nothing is happening. We're between semesters. I'm just taking the full time. So I'll take off a little bit before my birthday and come back after July 4th. So that's the time when I usually will catch up because I'm just going to be home. I'm not going to be doing much. I'm going to be home. I also want to declutter the house, but what really matters now is getting this done. And if I can do some decluttering, I will. If I can't, I will just keep living with what I have. I also keep resisting the urge to keep everything because I think a lot of people are going through that slight hoarder mentality right now because what if the thing is too expensive or unavailable later? So if I can't declutter, I just can't declutter. I need to focus on finishing this book. So that is the goal. The goal is to finish it by the end of June, at least book one. If I can finish both, that will be great. I don't know if I can. It really depends on how smooth this edit for book two goes. And then I will give book two over to some betas. I have at least one person who I've used before who is a romance reader, who is a friend, and maybe someone from my writing group will be willing to read it. So I'll run it through some betas just to get some feedback and then start the process of further revisions. But book one is the goal. My plan had originally been to get both book one and then book two out later in the winter. That may or may not happen quite on schedule. If it's delayed slightly, that's fine. Right now, the goal is just to get them out there and then market them and do what I can. But I cannot build a career if I have nothing out there. So just getting the work out and finding some readers is the most important step. And at the end of the day, that's what I really want. You know, if I don't make all the sales at the start, there's always time to change covers, to remarket, and to do all the things. You know, I've listened to enough authors talking about their experiences and what they've learned, and I know that, you know, it's never over. Like it's never like a one and done, especially when you're doing indie. Like there's so many ways to make modifications, improve, try different things, and just, you know, keep going. So if I don't have something out there, it just can't be started. And that is the real goal, is to put it out there and connect with readers, because what I really want is for these books to bring joy to someone out in the world, much like I have found joy in, you know, many of the romance books that I have read. I love romance. It's my favorite genre. It always has been. And I just want to put it out there. So that's where we are. That's what I'm doing. That's the plan. That's why I haven't been posting as much, because trying to squeeze in as much of this as possible has really just been the most important thing. I haven't updated my Substack or my blog, even though I said I would do those regularly. So I also need to catch up with some of that later this week. But this is a start, just putting it out there. This is what I'm doing. This is the energy I'm trying to embody going forward. So here we go. And this is stage 2 of the plan. So I will check in with you guys throughout, I hope. Apologies if there are delays in these updates. I haven't been talking as much about writing recently. I've been focusing more on my low-buy just because it's just been editing. Like there's not much to share when it's just like, so I'm revising more words today. But yeah, that's just the process. Like writing is it's a very solitary activity, and it's a very like weird activity to really share, because like here I am typing away, and maybe I'll change locations, but we're still just here typing away. So it's weird to share writing in a vlog, but there you go. So I will check in with you guys as soon as I can. I have a conference coming up, and I'm hoping to use that conference to catch up on at least the reading portion of book one, because I don't want to bring everything with me. Like I have a lot to do. I'm a committee member for one of the groups running the conference, so I have work to do at the conference, and I don't want to like have to worry about bringing everything. And travel tends to trigger my migraines, so I don't want to like set myself up for disaster right from the start by overdoing it. But I will be bringing the iPad. I will be probably squeezing in some of the reads so that I can get ahead on what I will be changing in book one. But there you go. I will talk to you guys later. Have a good one wherever you are in the world. Hope you have a good morning, evening, day, whatever it is. And I will see you as soon as possible. Bye.